I'd like to thank the Greenfield Knights of Columbus Lieutenant John J. Galvin, Council Number 133, for their sponsorship for this event, helping to make this all possible. Thank you. Hey everybody, I am so excited to be giving this talk today. My name's Hudson. You might have seen me on some of the videos on Ascension Presents and Catholic Lighthouse Media, things like that, having to do with the topic of LGBTQ and basically coming home to Jesus Christ, most specifically in the Catholic Church. And I say most specifically in the Catholic Church because our brothers and sisters who are of the Christian faith but not Catholic have actually been very instrumental in helping me get to where I am. They kind of were part of my journey too, and I'm excited to bring that up because truly the message of God's love is for everybody, and that includes the whole world basically. And I want us in this day and age especially to realize that there's a culture out there that is pointing to one direction, and we really need to be unified in our approach to respond and doing whatever we can do to bring our love for Jesus Christ into the world in a beautiful and attractive way so that other people might choose it for themselves. In the last while, I've had a great opportunity to continue to grow in what it means to grow in friendship. Now, so my testimony typically is about, same-sex attractions are part of my story, transgender inclinations, this is what they're called today, are part of my story, and somehow I found my way back into the Catholic Church. But the underlying truth was that I couldn't have found my way back into the church unless there was real human beings, real people, ready to open their hearts to grow in real relationship. And it was through the beginning of real relationship that I began to break down these barriers to trust that I had. Now, I'm not going to just go and tell my whole story here because I can send you a link with my story, or there's also the Lighthouse Media CD you can get. But the point is that underneath the story of same-sex attractions and transgender inclinations for me, there was issues of trust and issues of self-worth and issues of lack of self-control, lack of temperance, all those sorts of things. And underneath those was shame. Shame kills, okay? Now, shame is what basically controlled me by pointing me towards a life of fear. And I was fearful of not being accepted by my peers. This is an overarching thing. But that shame, for reasons that are specific to me, what that did is it drove me to be less and less courageous to break past that fear. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Shame kept me by myself. I own those choices, right? But it was shame, right? Now, shame and friendship. How does this work? Well, there was first some people who I had to encounter. So that could be people like you who are going to encounter people like me who experienced same-sex attractions or transgender inclinations, or simply are feeling shameful in their isolation, which is a big thing right now, you radiated something from your heart that was more attractive. And in this radiation of something more attractive, I was like, I want that. I want what you guys have, And that was the catalyst to my journey towards something more than what I was settling for. Have you ever felt that way? That maybe you're just settling for just the way things are, right? Have you ever considered yourself? I wonder, to what degree are my choices based on my fear of being hurt? If you haven't thought about that, give that a thought. To what degree are our thoughts based on our fears of getting hurt? Because what I had to realize that, because once I realized that I was living in fear, then I was able to change it and own it and not let the fear control me anymore. And all of those things were pointing me towards further isolation. Now, the big scale of this is that inside that isolation, I'd be less likely to give in the way that I can give now. For example, if you don't think that you have what it takes to share your life with somebody, right? Maybe it's just in a friendship, or maybe it's in a romantic way. You're going to be less likely to go and put yourself out there, right? You're going to be less likely to give back to the community, less likely to take good, healthy, holy risks, less likely to take risks. There's the big one, good risks. And all of those things can be impacted by that shame that someone can become entrapped within. Now, ever since engaging in the journey to move beyond that, there's been incremental growth in trust relationships, incremental breaking down of the walls that I had put around myself, which prevented me from getting close to other people. And maybe this is stuff that people can relate to, right? Like, have you ever had walls up? And as those walls came down, and the trust relationships came up, and then friendships began to blossom, so too was there an increase in confidence to say, I really do have something to give. And it's not as something big. It's not like being a big conference speaker and things like that. Well, I'm blessed with this opportunity. But the real big thing I realized was being able to give back right in my home parish, right where I was. How many of our home parishes, they're starving for people to give of themselves in healthy and good ways to build the community right where we are. And especially in this COVID time when travel is limited, and and all we have sometimes is our community, right? And sometimes sometimes our family is on the outside of that, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that's for me, but for many people, the church community is what you have. And so being able to serve your community through the church, that's been a big thing. So there's been lots of growth, right? And so friendship, I'm going to get back to this friendship idea, is that for the longest time, I had tons of friends, but I didn't realize that they were largely friends of utility, so to speak. Now, maybe you've ever felt like you've had that too, like you only knew friends because you'd kind of gain a mutual benefit from one another, in the world. That might not necessarily be a friendship. It could just be a relational arrangement that you know people and you get mutual benefits. I had to learn to look past that. I had to learn to see that there's more to friendship than that. And also learning that if I had friendship that was exploitive of me, I'm not saying maybe not exploitation in the way you're thinking, but what I'm really referring to is that people would feel like they were big because they try to make me feel small. Like, I'm talking years ago for me. But those types of friendships were not really friendships. But I settled for those types of friendships for so long because of shame. I didn't think I was worth anything more than what the type of treatment that I allowed myself to receive. And of course, if you don't think you're worth anything, other people are trained to think the same about you. And so there was a huge process of learning, of remapping that sense of identity, like, who am I? Like, where does my worth come from? And this is the biggest thing in friendship, is that lots of people were quick to be my friend when I didn't know where my worth came from. My worth came from validating their fragile egos. It came from getting what they wanted. It came from the desire to make other people happy because I thought maybe they would like me more, things like that. But that's not where my sense of value comes now. And of course, my testimony points towards this, but it doesn't. This is like after testimony, afterthoughts here. The testimony points to that sort of thing, but now I know that because my identity and my mindset and my self-concept is grounded firmly in the idea that the truth that I am first and foremost God's beloved, regardless of the attractions that I experienced and regardless of the inclination that I experienced, regardless of all of that and my appetites and my desires, is that because I'm first and foremost God's beloved, that is the base of my sense of self-worth. I know that I'm enough because I belong to God. That's it. I know I am man enough because I am striving to be a man of God. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Big shock, right? Doesn't mean I'm perfect. What it means is that I'm striving. There's no sense putting the the baseline of perfection on you, because you're going to fail 100% of the time at being perfect. So if you want to be miserable your whole life, imagine holding yourself to a standard of perfection, being the perfect person. Just forget it. Be striving. Strive. And of course, we can strive more or less, like better at sometimes than other times. But if we're striving, then we can really get somewhere. We can get somewhere better. We can actually get into a better mindset, because when we're striving, I mean, that's always one decision away in our hearts to go strive. So as we strive, we grow. And so striving to grow in the way in the idea that I am God's first, that actually was able to help me put a boundary between and first of all become awakened to, and then put a boundary between the types of the toxic people that were in my life, relationships that were never should have been relationships where they were not looking out for my best interest, things like that. And if you don't stand up for yourself, like, we can't expect others to do that either, right? We have to start that. We make the beds that we sleep in to some degree, as they speak, Like, of course, things happen to us, and we can, it's not that things happen for a reason, but whatever happens to us, we can assign a reason, we can assign a purpose. But just because things happen to us, it doesn't mean that we're powerless. And that's kind of the coolest thing that I got to realize, is that in entering into the wounds of Christ and realizing that I'm first and foremost God's, the feelings of being totally powerless and being a victim and all that stuff, those things were what began to melt away. And when you have those things melt away, what emerges is the hope for a new tomorrow, a hope for a better tomorrow. A hope that the next chapter of your book is yet to be written, first of all, and that it can be written way better than in prior chapters, and you are the one holding the pen. And let me tell you, like, that collection of thoughts, when you talk to somebody who's experienced trauma, myself, others, and my trauma is nothing compared to the trauma other people have experienced. But when you talk about that kind of stuff, like, the next chapter of your life is yet to be written, and you have the power to write it, to be involved in it and how it comes to be. That's very hope giving, and I've seen many people come to life and light up with that new hope, because what trauma does, because there was trauma in my past and whatnot, and there's trauma in everybody's past, I could say, to some degree. I don't want to speak for everybody, but trauma is, a lot of times people don't recognize it trauma, so they don't call it trauma, but their body and their brain has still responded to it as though it is trauma. But the point is that inside that, there's a tendency to be on edge and to be on guard, and that being on guard can prevent us from entering healthy relationships, because we're not letting ourselves become as close. We're not letting ourselves grow in the ways that we otherwise could. And to those people who say, "Well, just get over it," they're not there. They don't understand what it's like to be shot back into that zone, that trauma zone, where you're just you're going into survival mode, basically, right? And so, right, when I think of how I was growing in friendship and stuff, that healthy, holy friendships help me get out of that instant reflex and help me grow. And I know that that's happened for many other people too. And as people grow out of that, they're able to experience the greater breadth and beauty of life. Being controlled by fear is something less and less. If you have ever felt like you've been controlled by fear, it may or may not be due to trauma, but we can look to why that is, and ask ourselves, is this the way I want to continue to be? And if it's not the way you want to continue to be, ask yourself, what is holding me back? What is holding me back? What are my tendencies and inclinations to fall in that zone? For me, like I said, it was largely with shame, isolation, feeling like I wasn't good enough. There was some peer rejection in there. I was never, by the way, I was never ashamed for experiencing same-sex attractions. I just felt ashamed because I didn't have much self-control. Okay, it's really tough, especially in this day and age where we're basically taught to overindulge in all the trappings of life, right? So self-control is something that had to be retaught and everything like that. So yeah, so friendships were the core of it, and it didn't start with being buddy-buddy with anybody. It started with somebody just offering an olive branch. And the next time you offered that tiny olive branch to someone who is maybe a little skittish, like, just imagine that seed that you're planting in their lives. It could be life-changing. So back in like 13, 14 years ago was this one particular seed of friendship was planted in my mind, in my heart, by this group of people. And it was life-changing for me, but I'm sure that they don't know it. Like, I don't see much of these guys anymore. It's been a long time, a different place. But that's part of the beauty of the mystery of humanity and how we grow, is that everybody whose lives you touch will be impacted by you. And the more that we can grow in holy friendship, especially these days when people have been locked up with COVID and stuff, we develop holy friendships and holy bonds and holy relationships and holy boundaries. I mean, we can all step out of that fear. We can all reclaim the boldness of faith by having the brotherhoods and sisterhoods that we can get through friendship. Like the friendship, understanding the difference between like casual friendship and real friendship, like real holy friendship, has been literally life-changing for me. I actually incorporate the themes about that with healthy relationships in the instruction work I do in a secular environment, mind you, so as much as I can, because there's a lot of people who just settle for unhealthy friendships. And in fact, if you are watching and you have children in like the middle school age range and stuff like that, where they're navigating life, they're trying to make sense of themselves, that would be the time to talk about what is a healthy relationship and a healthy friendship, because a lot of the sexual exploration that's going on and romantic exploration that's going on is being modeled off of what is being seen on television and what is being promoted in the media. And of course, the kids don't even realize it because we're just soaking in it. We're soaking in it. And a lot of that has to do with people entering into sexual or romantic pursuits. But within that, there is a definite toxicity. It's a definite lack of the pursuit of holiness. There could be some innocence in there too, but what's happening is that people are trying to figure out how to categorize themselves after these experiences and where to fit in and stuff like that. And it just takes a couple or one exploitive person in that mix to give someone baggage that they'll carry for a long, long, long time. And so having conversations about healthy, holy friendship with your young children so that they can understand what it is and what it's not could give them the tools to recognize an unhealthy relationship before it happens. So I was that guy who I went to try to date girls and stuff like that when I was in high school and stuff, and I did date girls and everything like that, but it was a lot of the times I would say what I needed to have the girl like kind of like get past her defenses, so to speak. And so it was kind of dirtbag like, but I was I'm not making an excuse. I was a broken guy, and I was looking for an escapism mechanism myself, and I hurt lots of girls along the way with this. But the point is that I wasn't that dynamic, right? If those girls would have recognized right away that what I was doing was horribly unhealthy, then they would have been more likely to say, I'm not interested. You know what I'm saying? Which would have been good for them and for me, right? It would have been because entering into relationships and going the distance in these relationships is not good, especially when you're like when there's relational toxicity underneath, where people are using each other to get that validation. Maybe that's kind of what it is. And And if people saw that like a dating or a relationship that points towards marriage needs to be built upon the foundations of friendship and holy friendship, then if they could see that, then maybe just dating for the sake of dating, or dating without intentionality, or things like that, those would go by the wayside. People would say, why am I doing this? You're not treating me like a friend. But people can't say that unless they know what it means to be a real friend. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this talk here. I know I wandered a bit, but this was just what I had to say, okay? There's one book that I have to recommend, and I'll make sure that it gets taken and put in the links. It's called Spiritual Friendship, and it's a classic Christian piece of literature from who knows how old. It's amazing. I only read it about 10 months ago, and it was so powerful. It rocked my world. Without the foundation of holy friendships, holy intimate friendships, even between people of the same sex, you have a world that stays out of, because of fear, stays away from each other, and in that creates deep longings in the heart, and that the rebound effect of that longing becomes explosive sexual relationships with God knows who. Okay, we don't need to go there. Also, what comes out of that is the lack of ability to categorize friendships, such as friendships between two males being just a holy friendship. Instead, that just becomes something gay. And there's stories about this, of people who they don't understand real female friendship. They don't understand real holy intimate male friendship, because intimacy does not equal sex. Intimacy is a beautiful thing. It's not sex, but they don't know how to categorize these things, and so as a result, they label it gay, right? And it's like, we can't have our children growing up with that being the only thing controlling their paradigm of reality when it comes to friendship. We have to look bigger than that. Okay. So, all right, I'm gonna stop there. But friendship is such an important topic. If you have any questions about this or how I got here on my journey, please send me an email. I hope you appreciated this video, this audio, and I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, and check out that book. All right, peace.